agreement, contract, and proposal. The Indian Contract Act 1872, Act 9 of 1872, 25 अप्रैल 1872, 25 अप्रैल 1872, प्रेम्बल preamble, preamble, whereas it is expanded to define and amend a certain part of the law related to contract. It is thereby enacted as follow. प्राइमरली में हो गया नंबर वन, सेक्शन वन हो गया शॉर्ट टाइटल, दिस एक्ट में बी कॉल्ड द इंडियन कॉन्ट्रैक्ट एक्ट 1872, इंडियन कॉन्ट्रैक्ट एक्ट 1872, इंडियन कॉन्ट्रैक्ट एक्ट 1872, इंडियन कॉन्ट्रैक्ट एक्ट 1872, इंडियन एक्सटेंड एंड कमिसमेंट हो गया, इट एक्सटेंड टू द whole of India. It extend to whole of India and it shall come into force on the first day of September 1872. First day of September 1872. It shall come into force on the first day of September 1872. First day of September 1872. Extend and commencement, it extend to whole of India and it shall come into force on the first day of September 1872. First day of September 1872. Nothing herein contains shall effect the provision of any state act on regulation not hereby expressly repealed, nor any usage or custom of trade, nor any incident of the any contract not inconsistent not in not inconsistent with the provision of this act. 2. Interpretation clause. Section 2 हो गया इंटरप्रिटेशन क्लोज. Section 2 interpretation clause. In this act the following word and expression are used in the following sense unless a contrary intention appear from the context. यानी कि Section 2 clause A, when one person signifying to another this willingness to do or be abstain from doing anything with a view to obtaining the assent of that other to such act or abstains, he is said to make a proposal. Section 2 clause B, when the person to whom the proposal is made signifying this assent thereto, the proposal is said to be accepted. A proposal when accepted become a promise. 2C, the person making the proposal is called the promisor and the person accepting the proposal is called a promisee. 2 अंडर क्लोज सी क्या कहता है? 2 अंडर क्लोज सी कहता है द पर्सन मेकिंग द प्रपोजल इज कॉल्ड द प्रोमिसर. PROMISOR promisor and person accepting the proposal is called promisee. यानी कि सेक्शन 2 क्लोज सी क्या कहता है? पर्सन मेकिंग द प्रपोजल, द पर्सन making the proposal is called promisor and the person accepting the proposal is called promisee. PROMIS promisee. 2 clause D, when at the desire of the promisor, the promisee or any other person has done or abstained from doing or does or abstains from doing or promise to do or to abstains from doing some things, such act or abstains or promise is called a consideration for the promise. Section टू सेक्शन 2 क्लोज डी। सेक्शन 2 क्लोज डी क्या कहता है? व्हेन इट द डिजायर ऑफ द प्रोमिसर, द प्रोमिसी और एनी अदर पर्सन हैज डन और abstains from doing or does or abstains from doing or promise to do or to be abstains from doing something such act or abstains or promise is called a consideration for the promise. Consideration for the promise. Consideration for the promise not under section, not under chapter 3 on consideration. 2 clause E. Every promise and every set of the promise forming the consideration for each other is in agreement, not under the consideration. 2 clause F. Promise which form the consideration or part of the consideration for each other are called reciprocal promise. Reciprocal promise not under consideration. 2 clause G. 2 clause G. In agreement not enforceable by law. 2 clause G. 2 clause section 2 clause G. section 2 clause G क्या कहता है? In agreement not enforceable by law is said to be void. Is said to be void. 2 clause G क्या कहता है? section 2 clause G कहता है in agreement not enforceable by law is said to be void, not under section 23 void agreement. 2 clause H. In agreement enforceable by law is a contract. 2 clause H क्या कहता है? section 2 clause H कहता है in agreement enforceable by law is a contract. 2 clause H. In agreement enforceable by law is a contract. 2 clause I. 2 clause I. In agreement which is enforceable by law at the auction of one or more of the party through thereto, but not at the auction of the other. Not at the auction of the other. Not at the auction of the other. Not at the auction of the other, or it is a voidable agreement. It or is a voidable contract. Voidable contract. See note under the section 19 to 19A. 19A. 2 clause G क्या कहता है? 2 clause G कहता है J. 2 clause J. 2 clause J क्या कहता है? J. A contract which cases to a contract which cases हो गया. A contract which cases to be enforceable by law become void when it case to be enforceable for not see under section 56. Section 2 clause J. 2 clause J. A contract which cases to be enforceable by law become void when it is cases to be enforceable for case not under the section 56. Definition of contract. Definition of contract. The term contract is defined in section 2 clause H. 2 clause H of the Indian Contract Act 1872 has follow. In agreement enforceable by law it is a contract. In agreement enforceable by law is a contract. Thus for the formation of a contract there must be 1 in agreement and 2 is agreement should be enforceable by law. Agreement should be enforceable by law. Agreement in defining section 2 clause E. Agreement is defined in section 2 clause E has every promise and every set of promise forming the consideration for each other. Consideration for each other and a promise is defined as in accepted proposal. In accepted proposal, section 2 clause B say a proposal when accepted become a promise. This is in another way of saying that in agreement is in accepted proposal. Full stop. The process of definition come down to this. The process of definition come down to this. A contract is in agreement. In agreement is a promise and a promise is in accepted proposal. Thus Thus, every agreement in its ultimate analysis is the result of a proposal from one side and is acceptance by the other. Acceptance by the other. When agreement become contract. When agreement become contract, in agreement is a regard an agreement is regarded as a contract when it is enforceable by law. It is enforceable by law. In other words, agreement that the law will enforce is a contract. Enforce is a contract the condition. Enforce is a contract with the condition. With the condition in agreement for sale of good. Agreement of sale of good हो गया. In agreement for sale of good which impose no obligation on the part of the purchaser and was not even signed by him was held to be no agreement. Held to be no agreement. Held to be no agreement. Held to of enforceability are stated in section 10. According to this section, in agreement is a contract when it is made for some consideration between party who are competent with their free consent and for a lawful object. Section 10. What agreement or contract? What agreement or contract? All agreement or contract. All agreement or contract if they are made by the free consent of party competent to contract for a lawful consideration and with a lawful object and are not thereby expressly declared to be void. Nothing herein containing shall effect any law in force in India, and not hereby in expressly repealed, by which any contract is required to be made in writing or in the presence of witness. Presence of PRESENCS, presence of witness, or any law related to the registration of document. Every contract is in agreement. Every contract is in agreement, but every agreement is not a contract. But every agreement is not a contract. Every contract is in agreement. Every contract is in agreement. Every contract is in agreement, but every agreement is not a contract. In agreement become a contract when the following conditions are satisfied. Following conditions are satisfied. Number one, there is some consideration for it. There is some consideration for it. Section 2 clause 2 under clause D and 25. Section 2 clause D and section 25. यानी कि there is some consideration for it. 2. The party are competent to contract. Party are competent to contract. Section 11 and section 12. The party are competent to contract. 3. Their consent is free. सेक्शन 13 से 22. सेक्शन 13 से 22 क्या है? देयर कंसेंट इज फ्री. 4. देयर ऑब्जेक्ट इज लॉफुल. सेक्शन 23 से 30. सेक्शन 23 से 30 मतलब क्या कहता है? एवरी कॉन्ट्रैक्ट इज इन एग्रीमेंट. न्यू का प्रत्येक कॉन्ट्रैक्ट, जितने भी कॉन्ट्रैक्ट हुए हैं ना सभी एग्रीमेंट होते हैं. जितने भी कॉन्ट्रैक्ट हो गए वे सभी एग्रीमेंट होंगे. वे सभी एग्रीमेंट होंगे, लेकिन सारे के सारे जो एग्रीमेंट हैं वो कॉन्ट्रैक्ट नहीं हो सकते. सारे के सारे एग्रीमेंट क्या नहीं हो सकते? कॉन्ट्रैक्ट नहीं हो सकते. सारे के सारे एग्रीमेंट, सारे के सारे एग्रीमेंट कॉन्ट्रैक्ट नहीं हो सकते. और इनके लिए कुछ कंडीशन सेटिस्फाई होनी चाहिए. कंडीशन कौन सी है? नंबर 1 कंडीशन थी देयर इज सम कंसिडरेशन फॉर इट. द पार्टी आर कॉम्पिटेंट टू कॉन्ट्रैक्ट. Their consent is free. Their object is lawful. Their object is lawful. Their object is क्या होना चाहिए? Lawful होना चाहिए. Their object. Their object is क्या होना चाहिए? Lawful. Their object is क्या होना चाहिए? Lawful होना चाहिए. Their object. Their object is क्या होना चाहिए? Lawful होना चाहिए. Their object. Their object is क्या होना चाहिए? Lawful होना चाहिए.